Hello friends, SimPilot here. Welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator tutorial. This is the 6th episode of my tutorial series where we started with G1000 unit and took a look at the functions, VOR navigation, GPS navigation, how to enter a flight plan, so on and so forth. Now we are moving a step further and ready to take a look at the G3000 and we are back in the cockpit. As I always say, these tutorials are designed to build on the knowledge from the previous episodes. If you haven't seen the previous ones, the link to the playlist will be in the description field of this video. And if you want to get notified for the future episodes, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications. Before we start, I'd like to thank all 145 subscribers who subscribed to the channel and commented, liked the videos, showed their support. You guys are awesome and you are my fuel to keep going. Thank you very much. I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you very much. Without further ado, let's jump into the cockpit and start taking a look at this beautiful glass cockpit. As you see, we are in the cockpit. The engines are running, avionics are turned on, and we get 3 screens, if I move back a little bit, with the G3000 unit. Remember, the G1000 had 2 units. Now we have one for the pilot flying, we have one for the first officer, and we have a navigation display. The G3000 is pretty similar to G1000, with slight differences, and the turboprop aircrafts in the simulator who has the G3000 have some slight differences between each other as well. So TBM is different, and then the King Air 350 is a little bit different setup because it comes with touch screens, where TBM doesn't have touch screen over here, but these small screens are touch screens on TBM. So if you guys want to see the King Air 350 for the next episode, I can jump into that aircraft and start showing you the touchscreen cockpits as well. Just let me know in the comments if you want to switch planes on each episode when we are looking at the G3000. So what we're going to do today, like with what we did with the G1000, we are going to take a look at all the functions, what information we see on the displays, and if the time allows, we can take a look at the flight planning, just to briefly touch it, but I think I will cover that a little bit in detail in the next episode. Okay, so let's keep going. As you see, this is the PFD, primary flight display. On this screen you have your speed tape, you have your altitude tape, you have your barometric pressure, you have your distance and bearing to the next waypoint, and if you take a look at the colors, this is probably the GPS waypoints, not the VOR ones, but we can try to enter a VOR station and see if that holds true. You have a small map here. Different than G1000, you have the option to put the angle of attack here, which tells you, if you get to this red line, this tells you that you are going to risk your aircraft stalling, or you are going to stall the aircraft if you get to here and if your angle of attack is too high when you are climbing. You have your true airspeed information, you have your ground speed information here. Outside air temperature is displayed here. ISA deviation, which is, I think I have to explain it a little bit more later on, displayed here too. So the map range buttons you see over here are used to zoom in and zoom out of that mini-map shown on this screen. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this PFD map settings button to work, as well as this traffic inset button to work. Don't know, hopefully the next patch that's coming this month will add some of these functions. The PFD settings pretty much similar to G1000, and you can access these from this touch screen too. Attitude overlays are not working. PFD mode is not working. This one does work in the King Air 350. It splits the screen and puts the map over here to half of the screen. But this is always displaying the full. It doesn't display the split. Bearing 1 and bearing 2 are similar to G1000. You can put your NEV1, NEV2 or GPS or ADF and check the distances, and same goes for bearing 2. Other PFD settings where you get the wind information, like the G1000, you have 3 options. Option 1 is going to give you a combination of the wind and where it is pushing your aircraft. Like what this is telling me is it's pushing the aircraft from behind at 1 knots, but it's not pushing to left or right. Now it started to push to right at 1 knots. Option 2 is just giving the magnitude of the wind and the direction, but there is no bearing information or compass information like the direction of the wind. It's just a visual display. And as you probably already noticed, I like to have the option 3 because it gives you where it's coming from and the magnitude of the wind. Heading information is your current heading. Course information is, if you remember from the VOR, you change it from here. This is the autopilot panel. We will look into that here in a second. But the course information goes back to the VOR navigation tutorial. I think it was episode 4. Whatever that course is that you need to travel to capture that VOR station and be in line, remember that green line. This is how you set it over here, and that's your course information. You can turn on off the angle of attack, or turn it on or leave it at auto. It comes on when you need it and it goes off when you don't need it. You can see your COM1 frequency here, but you cannot change it. It doesn't do that. On this screen, using these buttons has nothing to doesn't provide any functionality, I'm sorry, to change this one. Okay, sensors not working at the moment. Active nav, remember, this is where you change your navigation source from GPS to NEV1 or NEV2. That's working as same as the G1000. This OBS is not doing anything at the moment, and weather radar controls are not doing anything. So this functionality over here with these buttons are pretty limited on G3000. Let's move on to the middle screen and take a look at that information. By the way, before I move that, you see your COM1 frequency here. This is the active frequency that you are on at the moment. And this black tape over here is your FMA, flight mode annunciator. This is going to display whether your autopilot is turned on and what mode that autopilot is in, like heading hold or nav mode or vertical speed or flight level change, so on and so forth. Okay. Second screen is your navigation display. You get to see your COM frequencies here, COM1 and COM2, and the standby frequencies as well. And I will show you where you change those here in a second. You see your ground speed here as well, your direct track, your estimated time to en route, your bearing, distance to the next waypoint, minimum sector altitude, if that information is in the nav data, and estimated time of arrival. Okay, and this is your engine information, your torque, because this is a turboprop, it has some additional displays. Your cabin pressure, this actually changes when you turn on the bleed, and this dump button will dumps the speed, it dumps the pressure when you are up in the air. This rate is not feet per minute, but this is related to your cabin pressure, like where your pressure sits when you are up in the air and when the cabin is pressurized. This shows the difference in PSI, and to see this we need to be up in the air, and we can take a look at it when we are flying this aircraft. NG is your turbine speed, prop RPM is obviously the RPM of your propeller. ITT is internal turbine temperature, oil pressure, oil temperature, some warnings in terms of master caution and master warning. Okay, your fuel quantity on both tanks are displayed here. Your electrical information like amps and the volts, and this is the control surfaces or flight control surfaces, and your trim on the elevators and rudder, and then your flaps, whether they are at takeoff. Like if I deploy flaps to takeoff, it will move. If I deploy them to landing, it will move again. I accidentally increased the throttle, by the way, and that displays your current flap configuration. And there is nothing else on this screen if you don't go here and change some information, but we will come back to it. Actually, now I think we can go to it and start with this MFD. So this is a touch screen. You have three options here for different menus. PFD will display the options for the PFD, MFD will display the options for the MFD, and NavCom is going to let you change your navigation or communication frequencies. And you also have your transponder setting here, whether it's VFR, that's 1200 in the United States, and we are at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, as you see here, the last airport we used in the last episode for our flight planning in SkyVector. This is where you change your transponder, whether you turn it on or put it on standby or put it on altitude reporting mode. This is where you change your comm frequencies, and the good thing is you can change the frequency if you take a look at the standby, like we did with the G1000. Inner and outer knobs change. Inner one changes the whole numbers, outer changes the decimal numbers. Or you can type it in from here, like if I want to switch to 125000, I type it in, and then to transfers it to the active COM radio. COM2 works as the same, and you can also change that frequency by pressing and holding this. It will change it from standby to the active, whatever your standby is. After you set it, and you can, as I said, set it from here and then press this knob and it will move it to the active frequency. This one down here is supposed to change the pilot COM1 volume. I tried, it's not changing the ATC volume like it did in the G1000, so I don't know if it's a bug or something. And your COM2 works the same way. You push to switch to COM2, and then it becomes blue, and you type in your standby and then enter to make it standby, or transfer to make it active. Okay, and this audio and radios will display a different screen where you see your nav active and nav standby, as well as COM active and COM standby frequencies. If you scroll down, there are some other options like turning on the volume control for the speakers, volume, voice recorder, I believe, marker, but I wasn't able to get any of this work other than this ADF. And how you change the frequencies, you just type it in after clicking that, and then let me see. Oh, okay, backspace 0354 0, enter, and there it is. And to switch it, and the ADF volume is where you listen to the Morse code coming from the ADF station, and to change it to the active, you just hit the transfer and it becomes active, and you can turn it on and off from here. I wasn't able to test this here because there is no ADF stations nearby. We can check if there are any and see if that works. So this is how you change your ADF. Music, obviously, I guess supposed to play some music, but it's not doing anything, and this one is not doing anything too. Oh, this says pilot clicks volume, so we can try it to see if it changes anything. If we scroll it down, nothing is changing. Let's see, nothing is changing. Okay, so this is the communications menu, and when you change the active frequency, it will display pilot calm volume, and if you push, it is the squelch, and when you press this one, it will become COM2 volume, and the function is displayed over here. So that's the PFD settings, and it doesn't change anything, and it doesn't provide any functionality to these options over here. I wasn't able to get them to work. MFD settings, this gets a little bit interesting here. The map settings doesn't do anything. The weather information though will give you the weather. This is your vertical weather information, and if you go here, you can select the next red, which will display the weather information here, and we don't have any clouds, but if we select and put some cloud layers here, like a few clouds, you see the weather information becomes visible. The weather radar is your horizontal weather radar, shows what's ahead of you, and NX radar is your vertical weather radar, and you can change the distances by scrolling through this knob. This one doesn't do anything, but this one changes the range if you scroll it. As you see, you can see 25 miles ahead, and this dotted lines becomes 25, 50, 75, 100 miles, and as you scroll back, it just brings it to the previous level, which is half of it, and then one more level brings it down one more, and then 5, 10, 15, 20. So I like to keep it here if I'm taking a look at the weather, but I usually stay over here with the next red. Or you can completely turn it off. If you go back and go to the map settings, it goes away. And if you click here, it displays the weather information again. Direct to is same as the direct to button in the G1000. You can select a waypoint, and you can go to that waypoint directly, like, well, let's say this PXR, right? PXR, enter, and then when you activate, you should see it somewhere here, which didn't do anything. Let's try something else. Select waypoint. Let's try what we have in the screen. Let me zoom out a little bit if I can. Yeah, I can zoom out. Let's say this Primi. Let's see if we can get it to work, to accept that as a direct to. Yes, as you see now, we have a direct line to there. So this is how you use it, and you can type a waypoint, you can type an airport, like if I want to go to Las Vegas directly, I put KLAS, enter, activate, and it will just draw a direct line from Phoenix to Las Vegas. If I can zoom out enough, but I cannot. Speed bugs is same as the reference speeds. That was this button on the G1000. You can turn all on with just one click, and V rotate is your rotate speed, Vx is your flight level change preferred speed, Vy is your vertical speed preferred speed, like, you know, when you set it up here and want to climb, let's say 1,000 feet a minute, if that's where you sit, then I think you will be fine climbing at that rate. And the approach speed is the approach speed, and you can turn them off, or, you know, and it will place a speed bug over here on the speed tape when you turn on one or all, depends on what you turn on. Waypoint information is going to give you some airport information. You can select an airport. Let's say we want to check the Las Vegas, which we put as the destination at the moment. It will show you the name, the current bearing to that airport, and if you check this is correct over here, it is showing 305 on our course, and the bearing is what it is. The distance to the destination, GPS coordinates. I didn't I wasn't able to get this elevation time fuel predictions. It's not working at the moment. Runways will display the available runways at that airport and their runway elevations. Info brings you back, and the frequencies will display you the available frequencies for Las Vegas, both COM frequencies as well as the localizer and ILS frequencies. If you scroll, you can grab you can grab this white line. It's hard to do, but you can scroll up and down, or you can use these buttons. It's much more easier to do it this way. And as you see, this is your ILS frequency that's displayed here. You can have the ramp frequency, and you can tune to these by just clicking, and then it asks where you want to put it. Do you want to put it to standby on COM1 or COM2, or do you want to make it active? So you can switch to that frequency. And same goes for the ILS frequencies. If you click that, it will ask you whether do you want it on nav1, nav2, or standby. I think that's all about this airport information. Waypoint information is what that is. The nearest is similar to the nearest in G1000. You remember we scrolled this knob on the map and it displayed some nearest options, like nearest airports will be listed here. And the good thing about G3000 is when they are listed here, you don't need to search or try to enter them by rotating a knob. You can pretty much like go in and select what airport is that you want to, find and travel to. If you are interested in doing that, you can click to the name, and then it will pop a menu asking you, do you want to insert this in the flight plan? Do you want to see the airport info? You can even show it on the web map, like this one right there. And the airport info will bring you the same information we looked at here in a second ago. And when you get there, you have some waypoint options, which I forgot to mention. You can travel directly to this airport. Again, you can insert in the flight plan, and you can show on map if you physically go there. Unfortunately, you can go directly from here too, so that's a different representation of that menu in a different way. Intersection is the GPS waypoint intersections. It shows you the name, it shows you the bearing, it shows you your distance to that waypoint, and you can scroll and check them all. And when you click the name, same thing you can do here. You can enter the waypoint, you can go directly to that waypoint. Like if I click that one and say activate, it will pick that waypoint, but I think it's somewhere close, so that's why it's not showing it here. Or maybe I need to just zoom in to see it. As you see, it's right there, it's too close, and that's why it's not showing when you zoom out. VOR will list you the nearest VOR stations. Actually, this is quite handy when you are doing VOR navigation and when you want to see if your next waypoint or next VOR station that you want to travel to is listed here. Then you can directly click and insert this in the flight plan to have a GPS waypoint in there, or you can click to the frequency and you can set it to your active nav radio, and if I change this, it will show you like, that's the LUF, that's the frequency which is here, and our distance is here, but it's not gonna show it here because this is a GPS waypoint information which comes from this waypoint saying that it's 6 nautical miles away. This one, to get the DME information, you need to get the bearing information from the nav radio, if it has anything, which it doesn't at this point. Maybe it's too far away and it's not picking it up, I don't know. Or it's not a VOR DME station that displays the distance as well. We can try another one. We can put this to active as nav1. It is picking it up, but I'm not seeing any DME information. But this is how you can switch to that frequency easily without trying to deal with the knobs and trying to tune it using your nav radios. The NDB shows your nearest non-directional beacon, which is pretty much ADF. Clicking will let you travel to that or insert into your flight plan, or you cannot enter the frequency, but you can look it up and enter it using, and you can use them side by side, which is a good thing because you get the information from one and you enter that information into the second one. If I want to put that ADF frequency here, which is 338, I believe this one, if I get a little bit closer, you can scroll, but scrolling is also zooming, so it feels a little bit weird to do so. 338, so if I want to enter that to here, 03380, transfer, now it became active. And let's see if it's picking anything up. Well, I guess the ADF is not quite working in Microsoft Flight Simulator yet. So that's the nearest information, which was the last thing that I was planning to cover on the MFD settings. When you move to the nav com, I think we just discussed this. This is where you enter your nav frequencies. No, I'm sorry, this is your com frequencies. To see your navigation radio frequencies, you switch to here and then scroll up and down, and you can change them using this and clicking to the frequency. Or you can do a find if it's not working, I guess. I tried it so many times that I wasn't able to get that to work. So that's the two screens, and having them side by side makes things a little bit easier. And over this side of the screen, which is the same PFD for the Copilot, it's not doing anything. Not even the ones that work over there are working here. So I guess this is not modeled, or it is just modeled for this one, and the other one doesn't have any functions. The last thing I want to share is something I believe you are really familiar with at the moment from G1000. This is the autopilot panel, which was sitting in the middle for the G1000, or was it? Yeah, I think it was sitting in the middle, or it was sitting at the right side of the screen. Anyway, so this baro is your barometric pressure setting, which allows you to set your barometric pressure to current pressure, or you can simply hit the B key on your keyboard and it will set it for you to the current barometric pressure. Heading is going to change your heading and your heading bug, in other words, and if you click on it, it will synchronize to the current heading. Course is same. Back course, I think we discussed this. Some runways has just one ILS localizer that serves for both ends of the runway, and if you are approaching that runway from the opposite direction and if your needle is backwards, this back course button will flip that needle for you so that you travel the direct or correct course. Course is obviously going to change your course. Altitude selection is where you enter your desired altitude that you want to cruise at. This is how you enter this. Unfortunately, there is no way to enter them in thousands. I tried everything, it doesn't do it. Course 2 supposedly changes that one, but it's not doing anything. I'm not sure if it's changing the other course. Let's try. Yeah, it is changing the nav2 radius course, so this is changing your nav2 course and setting it, and the course 1 is changing this course, and you cannot change the GPS course because it's picking it up from the flight plan, so there is no way of changing it. Bank mode is turning on the half bank mode when you are turning left or right. This lets the aircraft bank half of whatever the degree is. I think it's 30 degrees, so this makes the aircraft bank only 15 degrees. This is comfortable for the passengers, but in a flight simulator, it's just, a function that's there. Heading is heading hold mode, like in the G1000. Approach is, when you are doing an ILS approach, this is where you activate or turn on your approach mode. Nav mode is your navigation source, whether it's VOR or GPS. This autopilot will follow whatever you set here when you are on nav mode. Flight director is flight director. This shows you where you should aim to climb to that altitude at your limits. Altitude hold is going to hold the current altitude, and it will override your setting. Vertical speed is vertical speed, and you can set this up on the ground. This is the good thing about this aircraft. You can set it there, you set your autopilot, and then when you take off you can turn on the autopilot and it will climb at the rate that you set. And same goes for flight level change. You can set the speed that you want to climb at, and it will follow that when you turn autopilot on. VNAV unfortunately doesn't work at the moment in any of the aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and the speed mode is going to switch the speeds to Mach units rather than knots, so that's just changing how you display your speed over here. And at some altitudes your knot speed is picked up by the P2 tubes. If I go here, I need to get closer, but there are some tubes on the sides of the aircraft like that one, which is called the oh, that's not a tube, P2 tube. Its function is to measure the air that gets into the tube and displays your speed in knots. When you switch to Mach, it's more accurate because up high there is less air that travels and your speed might not be accurate. So that's what the speed button does. Or AP button turns on your autopilot or engages it, and the YD is different because this is not present in the G1000 or GA aircraft with single engine or dual engine. This is the yaw damper. So basically what this does is when you are up in the air and when there is turbulence, this is going to prevent your aircraft to shift left and right or bank left and right based on the turbulence. If you turn this on, autopilot will try to counter it as much as it can to keep your aircraft level. So that's what this button does. So these are the basic autopilot functions for the turboprops, and they are same for the King Air. The location I believe is also here, but we can take a look at it, as I said, in the next episode if you want to see the King Air 350 and the touchscreen G3000. I can use that one for the next episode where we enter the flight plan and take a look at that. Last thing I want to show is this is your backup or standby altimeter, and you can also change the barometric setting with this knob. And this is your attitude indicator, whether your wings are level or climbing or descending. This is what displays that, and it also displays your bank when you are turning left or right. And this is, as I said, how you set your barometric pressure on your standby altimeter. But pressing the B key will set both this one and that one to the current altimeter or barometric pressure setting. So guys, that's I think pretty much it for this episode. We pretty much covered what information is displayed on the screens and what button functions we have, and these two small ones. Before we leave, I want to come back to the map, and as I said, this button here is zooming in and out, but if you want to move the map like we did with the G1000, pressing on this will bring a cursor, I believe, when you are on PFD screen. No, maybe this one. Hold on, let me. Okay, yeah, you see, push says pan, so you push it and then it will bring a cursor and the touchpad over here. So by dragging your mouse over this touchpad, you can move the map around if you want to. And to make this cursor disappear, you press on the top one. You turn it on by the bottom one, but you can, I think, not turn it off from here. It doesn't do anything. So you scroll and do whatever, and pressing this will center your aircraft in the middle of the map. And I think that's the only thing I forgot to mention about the side functions of these knobs. It's quite handy when you are trying to look around on the map. You can just go around and check. It's kind of funky, or not quite pleasant to use it this way. I prefer the other one in the King Air, which you can touch on the screen and pan it around and zoom it using a plus and minus sign over here. Okay, I think this is going to be it for today's episode. As I said, and as I always say, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode. I believe I will try to publish it sometime over the weekend. And let me know in the comments if you want to see the King Air 350 with the touchscreens. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications for future episodes. Until the next video, stay safe and take care of yourself. See you next time.